Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Novel Reviews. This is episode number 53. And first episode for this series, I'm using this mic. But it's not the first video overall. That was my Christmas haul. Yep, it's been almost 2 weeks since Christmas. And I'm getting a little better with this mic. Alright, I have one book to talk about, and that is Star Trek Deep Space Nine Gamma Original Sin, written by David R. George III. Now, the main focus of this book is not Deep Space Nine itself, making it the second book in a row not to feature the space station. Nope. This book is to focus on the USS Robinson, as you can see on the cover. Yep, that is the USS Robinson, a Galaxy-class starship, which, by the way, this was the same class of starship they used for the USS Enterprise D, and if you look very closely on the hull, you can see that it says Robinson. Though this is actually the third spaceship that Ben Sisko has ever commanded. First was the Defiant, then it was the Republic, which was during the whole Star Trek Legacy event, where the Borg came back in Nelly, but he briefly took command of the Republic. This is actually his third official one, and Cassidy Ace is here along with his daughter, Rebecca. His son, Jake, is referenced several times in the book. He doesn't make a physical appearance in the novel per se, but he does make an appearance. This book is actually a bit unusual for a Star Trek book. The chapters don't have numbers on them. Nope, it just jumps back and forth between two different time periods. First is the present-day stuff in the Gamma Quadrant, in the Gamma Quadrant in 2386. Excuse me, and the early stuff, and of course it continues in the prelude, Bajor 2380, where it pretty much explores something that happened during the 2-year time skip between Soki and Star Trek Typhoon Pack Book 3, which features Sisko on the cover. Yeah. It features the first time that Rebecca was kidnapped, because she was kidnapped by somebody associated with a cult, which is affiliated with the religion for the prophets, where they think Rebecca is the Avatar. As for what kind of Avatar, the book doesn't bother to explain. Is it Avatar Destruction, an Avatar Peace, an Avatar Rebirth, is the Savior? No idea. But what I can tell, it looks like she actually can manipulate time. Yes. I'm not kidding. She can manipulate time itself. Where there's at one point toward the end of the novel when she's being rescued from her second time she's being kidnapped, apparently she decided to rewind time. Where apparently there was a page repeating itself the same exact way because our parents changed to that of an alien. Yeah, and the aliens that kidnap are called the Guest, and they have the most bizarre language. At least they have bizarre concepts, and apparently they're kind of like robots, and they refer to children as issues, that they don't understand the whole concept of children, or at least the whole concept of reproduction. Yeah. And the book starts off in 23... the book actually starts off with a prelude, which actually kind of ties into what happens, some of the stuff that happens in the 2380s, with the whole thing of this particular moon revealed to be a false work, possibly created by the prophets themselves, which caused the first officer, the first one that Captain Dax had, not Captain Dax, it was Captain Rollaren had when she took over as the captain of Deep Space Nine. Now, Elis Vaughn makes an appearance in here. And I'm like, Elis Vaughn? That doesn't make any sense. Elis Vaughn's dead. Yeah, he died. But, from what I can tell, and they mentioned, oh yeah, Sisko's not been active for years. So, this is a flashback. Yeah. The beginning of the book, it's a flashback to 2380. Of course, that kind of leads into Rebecca being kidnapped for the first time by a lone guy who also has a friend who's a woman. No, that's nothing unusual. I have friends also women as well. Where he kidnaps Rebecca because he thinks that she's the Avatar. Of course, like I said, they don't explain what the heck that is at all. I mean, I know what an Avatar is. Usually it's like some kind of icon or something she becomes. But what Avatar of? The book itself never bothers to explain that at all. Nope. Let's see. What else? Oh, yeah. They also introduced a new character named Jasmine Tay, who was an agent who used to work for the First Minister. And the First Minister here is one who succeeded from Sakaar. Not Sakaar. Yeah, I think it was Sakaar. I think his name was. He was the First Minister he was elected First Minister about halfway through the original Deep Space Nine TV show, and he actually got killed. He was assassinated. Not by Bajorans per se, no. He was killed by those creatures from the episode, Star Trek Next Generation episode, Conspiracy, in the book Unity. The book where Ben Sisko came back from the Celestial Temple has been gone for 9 months. Yeah, almost gone for almost an entire year. Yep. Now at this point in time, because it's... I'm trying to think. I think it's supposed to be... Now, when they came back, it was 2376 when they came back. Now, at this point, Rebecca is they say Rebecca is, at the time of the 2380 stuff, she's 3.5 years old. And here's something interesting, though. She knows what a bomb is. Yeah, a 3-year-old girl knows what a bomb is. Because she overheard her parents talking about bombs. So, and... one thing I thought was really ingenious of the writer to do is not only she can also read Federation Basic, she also can read Bajoran numbers, which I'm like, that's ingenious because she lives on Bajor, so it makes perfect sense for her to know that, and also somehow, and she's very smart for a little girl, and she also treats adults with a pretty good amount of respect, and she's also very polite to people, which even her mother, Cassidy Yates, is quite happy the fact that her child is not rude or being like overreacted. Though she gets a sweet at the beginning, though she gets kidnapped in the most bizarre ways I have ever seen a child get kidnapped in fiction. Yeah, because they use teleporters constantly in Star Trek. This is a constant thing. So they can teleport back in the house. Cassidy gets there, no problem. But Rebecca's not there. And it turns out she was taken. What happened, though, was somebody interfered with teleportation signal and redirected it someplace else. Yeah, this is not the first time this has actually happened. As far as I know, this has actually happened several times in the series. Someone redirecting a teleportation beam, even though they probably say that they beamed someplace else, but they beamed in this particular location. This has happened it's happened in the original series. It's happened in pretty much like every single Star Trek show that I can think of, except for Enterprise. I have no idea this has happened in Discovery or not because I haven't watched Discovery yet. So that happening is nothing unusual for Star Trek. Happening for a kidnapping, that's unusual. Usually, whenever people get kidnapped, usually kidnapped at gunpoint or something like that. But yeah, and for a 3-year-old, it says she also has a stroller or something like. A 3-year-old having a stroller, that doesn't make much sense, but I've seen it where 3-year-olds usually are in strollers, but some people think it's been unusual, but it's not. I've seen 3-year-olds in strollers before, and she can walk perfectly fine, just that they have it just to transport around. And I do appreciate the fact that they actually sort of explored Jasmine Tay, where they introduce her pretty well, and she gets brought on the suggestion of the First Minister, and she helps out with the investigation, and she finds Rebecca, rescues her, and she introduces her like, "Hi, my name is Jasmine Rebecca. I'm here to take you to your parents." And then she just clung on her, and it got away. As for the second time she was kidnapped, this one was actually quite unusual for a mass kidnapping. Apparently, these aliens called the Guest decided to fire these charges around the space around the Robinson, and pretty much turn into no space, where it's like no space at all. Yeah, this is a bit bizarre. I have never seen this before for Star Trek. The only thing kind of similar to this is maybe the Tholian Web, which has been seen twice over the course of Star Trek's show. The Star Trek franchise. One was in the episode Tholian Web from the original series, and from the two-parter In a Mirror Darkly from Star Trek Enterprise, which was an awesome two-parter, by the way. and probably one of my personal favorite episodes of the whole series because it takes place in the universe. So as for that's the only thing similar I can think of when it comes to energy beams, but to cause the ship to go into a drift, and the fact that when they try to fire these things, they don't exactly work properly, and also their weapons are not as advanced as theirs. So there's that. And then when they come across where their home is, I'm like, yeah, they explain it's like a Dyson spear, which I'm like, Dyson spear? You mean that giant metal ball that they found in an episode of Next Generation? Yeah, okay, that's interesting. Apparently this is like it, and the way to describe it is like an island in space. Not an actual planet, it's an actual island in space. Surrounded by no space. Oh yeah, and said they're exploring. You're exploring our space, stuff like that. It's like David George made these aliens so uninteresting. The way they speak is just so bizarre, and the ships are fantastic. I love the way he describes them in the novel. Which, by the way, on the novel cover, that's the actual ships they used to attack the Robertson at the beginning of the novel. So there's that. What else? And they actually attempted 2 rescue attempts. Both of them were successful. First time they recovered about 60 of the. Get this. They kidnapped 80 kids. Not kidding. 80 kids, so they can copy their minds to, I don't know, some kind of their conscious or something. And apparently Rebecca did not. Apparently she heard the way they describe it. It's like, no, don't do that to me at all. And heck, even her parent, even though Ben and Cassidy are very surprised that the daughter actually said that she does not want her mind to be copied. And it's a pretty sweet ending. I'm not going to say exactly what she reveals in the epilogue, but it's quite interesting. It's a pretty good ending for a Star Trek novel. It ends on a pretty good note. For a Deep Space Nine novel, this is really good. This is something I did want to see from the Pocket Books. A book where it focuses on the exploration of the USS Robinson Ben Sisko ship. I'm hoping that maybe they might do a whole series of novels like this, not just one standalone book. I think there's plenty of room for storytelling. Just give it its own spin-off. Doesn't necessarily have to be associated with Deep Space Nine, but yeah, when people think of Ben Sisko, they will think of Deep Space Nine. That's probably the reason why they decided to do it. Why not just call it Deep Space Nine? Just call it this particular time, Deep Space Nine Gamma, and just have it as its own separate series, separate from Deep Space Nine, but be a spin-off of it. Okay, fine. Okay, but otherwise though, this was an absolute great novel, and I'm gonna give this novel a 10 out of 10. I'm gonna give this novel a 9.5 out of 10. The only reason why I'm taking a half point, I wouldn't make this a 10, but the aliens that the Gauss were not interesting at all, and they don't explain what the whole thing with the avatars when it comes to Rebecca. Though it's not the first time they actually first mentioned this incident. It was referenced in the third novel for Typhoon Pack, where she previously been kidnapped. And this novel is like, okay, so I guess as they probably decided to explore that incident, and David R. George III, who was a regular DS9 writer, explores it really well. So there's that. Alright, that's it for this episode. Stay tuned for next episode, whenever I get a chance to do it. That'll be episode number 54, because this is episode 53. The next video I'm going to do is in our Comic Corner. You'll find that out next. Okay? But until I see you in my next video, bye.